attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, I'm Peter Towers, Managing Director of ESS BIZTOOLS and ESS BASSIP. Welcome to the accountants and business advisors who have subscribed to the crowdsourced funding documentation. Thank you very much for your support. The purpose of this webinar is to give you a sample of how we would present a seminar or webinar that you might care to replicate in presentations to your clients and prospects. As part of the material that you are able to use, you will find a blank set of PowerPoint slides that we would invite you to badge with your firm name, logo, etc., so that you are then in a position to present seminars and webinars on this very exciting concept of crowdsourced funding. If you wish to edit any of the material, please do so. If you find any areas that you are critical of, please send us an email so that we can have a look at fixing the material up. So how about sitting back now and joining me as I present a webinar that you could utilize as a seminar or webinar to an imaginary group of clients that I imagine are your clients and prospects, so that we can share with them the news about crowdsourced funding. Many small, medium enterprises have been asking for this sort of legislation for many years. This is now your opportunity to play a very important role in assisting these companies to be able to raise capital from the crowd. Thank you for your support. Crowdsourced funding is a great new opportunity for businesses and also retail investors who traditionally have not been able to take advantage of the investment opportunities that have been there for investment into startups and new technology type businesses. So crowdsourced funding is targeted at small, medium enterprises, inventors and entrepreneurs. A crowdsourced funding company can raise up to $5 million every 12 months. But to raise that sort of capital does come responsibilities, and we are going to summarize many of those responsibilities in this presentation to you. If you're sick of borrowing money from your business, from your parents, your mother-in-law, or your friends and colleagues, crowdsourced funding could be the answer for you as long as you have a well-run business and are able to identify a realistic vision as to where the business is likely to go if you had the injection of capital. In that basis, investors might be interested in investing with you. Obviously, it's up to the investor to decide. So the eligibility for a CSF company, a group turnover of under $25 million. So if you are part of a group, it's the whole group that is looked at to determine eligibility. And your group assets must be valued at under $25 million. If you're currently operating as a proprietary limited company, you will have to convert to an unlisted public company to avail yourselves of the opportunities of this legislation. Or if you're currently operating your business as a partnership or a sole trader, you could roll it into an unlisted public company. Whilst the government has indicated that it is looking at enabling proprietary limited companies to directly participate in this market, we believe it will be a number of years before the government has finalised any new legislation. Therefore, there is an opportunity for you now to be seriously looking at your business and proceeding down this path. So the requirements to raise capital in this market is that you have to produce a document that's referred to as the crowdsourced funding offer document. Accountants are able to assist you in the preparation of this document, which is a de facto prospectus. And to enable this documentation to be produced to the required standard will probably require other documents, market research, marketing plan. Both of those documents would probably be done by experts in those areas. Intellectual property summary, looking at your trademarks that you might have in progress for registration, patents that you might have in progress for registration, copyrighted material, trade secret material, the organisational chart for your business, the management team and the locations of your operations, a business plan looking at your vision for the next 3 years, which is built on the market research and incorporates the marketing plan. How much capital do you need to raise? And what will this capital be spent on? The financial forecasts then need to be prepared based on the vision shown in the business plan and the outlays that the marketing plan has indicated will be necessary if the companies are going to achieve the turnover that has been utilised in the business plan and budgets. The company will then need to be valued. What is your business currently worth? Because a share price calculation will need to be calculated. As accountants, we are able to undertake all of this work for you. An information memorandum needs to be prepared to comply with the requirements of the Corporations Act. The government has included a 5-year exemption from what is called the onerous requirements of being an unlisted public company. So you don't have to hold physical annual general meetings. There is no need to appoint an auditor unless the company has raised an aggregate of $1 million at any time during the 5-year period. And at that stage, the company would then have to appoint an auditor. For 5 years, you do not have to produce paper annual reports. All communications can be conducted via the internet. A very important person in this overall process is the intermediary. This is a business with an Australian Financial Services licence that is applied to ASIC, Australian Security Investment Commission, for a further licence to be a crowdsourced funding intermediary. The intermediary is the gatekeeper for the government for this legislation. When you produce an offer statement, you don't have to take it to the government department, ASIC. It is presented to the gatekeeper, and the gatekeeper then has to check the crowdsourced funding offer document to make sure that it complies with the legislation. The legislation refers to a fee being paid to the intermediary but does not supply a formula. That is an independent negotiation between the intermediary that you have chosen and your company. We can assist you in negotiating that fee. The intermediary's most important role is to check that the offer document that has been produced records all of the information that is required by the legislation and also supplies all of the information that an independent arm's length investor might be interested in viewing to enable them to make an investment decision. And that requires the production of the documents that I referred to earlier. The intermediary is then able to place your offer document on their website, which the legislation refers to as a platform, for a maximum of 3 months. You can have the offer document available on the platform for less than 3 months, but our recommendation is that you would have it there for the maximum period. If the maximum capital raising figure that you have specified in your offer document is achieved in a lesser period than 3 months, the offer will close at that stage. The intermediary receives the subscription monies and details of investors, so no money is paid direct to the company. It is all paid via the intermediary, who holds the money until the capital raising has been concluded. When the offer is closed at the end of the 3 months or such earlier period that's been specified, or when the maximum subscription has been received, the intermediary will advise the company that the offer is closed and will send the company details of the investors who are now going to become shareholders in your company. Your responsibility then is to prepare the share certificates, and your accountant will be able to assist you to prepare those share certificates. And when they have been sent to the new shareholders, the intermediary will then transfer the net amount of the proceeds that have been received, and the net amount is obviously after the intermediary's agreed fee has been deducted. So who are the investors that are crucial to this whole market? There are a number of groups. We've got sophisticated investors. These are people with an accountant's certificate that they have net assets worth over $2.5 million, or they have a gross income for the last 2 years of at least $250,000 a year. Or they are proposing to make a direct investment into your company of over $500,000. Or they are a professional investor who controls at least $10 million. There is no limit to the investment amount that these people can make, but all other investors are referred to as retail investors. And this is the group of investors that have traditionally not been able to participate in these type of capital raisings. Retail investors have a limit of $10,000 investment per company every 12 months. There is a 5 business day cooling off period wherein they can obviously change their mind about the investment, and then the intermediary will refund the monies that they have paid direct to the retail investor. The legislation requires risk warnings to be issued in the offer document and also to be prominently displayed on this crowdsourced funding intermediaries platform, their website. Because investing in any company is risky, and the government has gone to great lengths to ensure that retail investors are given adequate warning about the risks of investing in companies. The intermediaries platform is their website, and that is where they will place your offer document. That offer document is then open to the crowd or the public to view. It is a public document, and anyone who goes to the intermediary's website will be able to view it. The document and the website will contain the investment warnings, and if an investor indicates to the intermediary that they wish to make an investment, they will be asked to first of all acknowledge that they have read the risk warnings, because this is what the legislation requires the intermediary to do. The intermediary also has to establish a communications facility that your company directors have to agree to be available to respond to questions that potential investors have asked. The intermediary may also have to participate in answering some of the questions, but in the main, these will be questions that have to be answered by the company directors, officers, or managers. When answering any questions, the legislation requires you to clearly identify that you are a director, officer, or manager. The communication facility can also have cross conversations between other investors and potential investors, talking about your company and where it is going. The intermediary receives details of the investor and receives the payment that they have agreed to make and holds that money until the offer is closed. Let's look at the timetable for this. The government has indicated that crowdsourced funding offer documents can be available for the crowd to read on intermediaries' platforms from September 2017. As you have now seen from what we have already discussed, there's a fair bit of work to be done in getting to the situation where the intermediary would have agreed that a CSF offer document could be placed onto their platform. So let's work backwards to look at a timetable. If you wanted to be ready to have your offer document on the intermediary's website by September, when the legislation says that part of the process can start, and if you allowed the offer document to be open for 3 months, that would mean that your offer would be ending around the end of November, early December. You could have this whole process finished before Christmas. Sound interesting? Well, let's just go through some of the other aspects. In May, June, you're going to have to start work, if you haven't already done so, on market research and marketing plan, and also a summary of your intellectual property, a report from your patent attorney and trademark advisor if you have one, or a summary of the documentation, a copy of the certificates that you've received from IP Australia on trademarks. In June, July, you would have to be looking at items such as the budget, looking at the next 3 years forecast and what that means in cash flow terms, the business valuation, the determination of a share price, and starting discussions with 2 or 3 of the CSF intermediaries to determine which intermediary you would like to appoint as your intermediary. In July, August, we believe it would be an opportune time to finalise the business plan, which obviously is going to incorporate segments out of all of those other documents that I've referred to. And then the information memorandum can be finished, and then your company is in a position whereby you can finalise your agreement with the CSF intermediary. That should be a written agreement as to what the intermediary is going to do for your organisation and what they are going to charge you. And then in September 2017, hopefully the intermediary has accepted your offer document and has agreed to place your offer document onto their platform. So what we've developed is a 9-step crowdsourced funding journey that we will take you through if you're interested in joining us in this process. Are you interested? Please have a conversation with us. We will then give you a written proposal which will outline what we are going to do for you. Step 1 is we need to determine whether your company meets the requirements to be a crowdsourced funding company. So we have an initial review to determine eligibility. The second step is making sure you understand the level of disclosure that's required. The government has specified that a lot of information relative to the history of the company, directors, officers and managers must be available for potential investors to read. So all of this documentation is going to be shown on the intermediary's website. Are you comfortable with that? If you've never had any problems as a company, directors, officers or managers with Australian Security Investment Corporation, you will not have too many concerns from the level of disclosure. But if you have had some issues in the past, you will need to consider whether you wish to proceed on crowdsourced funding. All that the legislation is saying is that past events need to be disclosed. Step 3 is looking at the investor categories, and we've had a brief overview of those in this presentation. Looking at things from a retail investor's point of view, understanding the protection that the legislation is giving retail investors. Step 4 is we will discuss in detail with you and give you some detailed notes as to the exact role of the intermediary. We will explain to you the intermediary's duties, responsibilities, and very importantly, the power that the intermediaries have. Step 5 is a very important part of the process, which we are happy to assist you with, and that is contacting some intermediaries to discuss your vision. Are you comfortable with them? What fees will they charge? So that you're then in a position to, having identified the intermediary you would like to work with. Step 6 is preparing the CSF offer document. This is the key document, and it probably requires a whole range of other matters that I've already referred to. Market research, marketing plan, IP summary, business plan, budgets, cash flow forecasts, information memorandum, the valuation of the company, the share price calculation. Step 7 is that you then present the offer document to the selected intermediary. And the intermediary will then review the document as the gatekeeper. Step 8 is a great day for you because it will be when you would go live, or your offer document would go live on the intermediary's platform. You can do some promotional emails to your clients and colleagues, and we will take you through the advertising rules. And the intermediary is able to do some advertising under the legislation to inform the crowd that an offer document is available on their platform. Step 9, closing the CSF offer at the end of the 3 months or the period that you have stated. If the minimum subscription is achieved, you will then be required to issue the share certificates, and once the intermediary has been advised that the share certificates have been forwarded to the new shareholders, the intermediary will then deposit the net cash amount after their negotiated fee has been deducted into your nominated bank account. And that is then the end of the CSF intermediary's role with your company at that stage. If you wish to go back and repeat the process at another time, you could reappoint the same intermediary, but the process starts all over again. So are you interested in this journey? Are you frustrated at having to go to banks to continue to borrow money, second and third mortgages, borrowing money off relatives, using credit cards? This could be a significant opportunity, but your business case needs to be well prepared, well argued, well presented to first of all satisfy the gatekeeper, the intermediary. Otherwise, there's no going any further because you can only be with one intermediary at a time. Therefore, they need to be satisfied that you have answered the questions contained in the legislation and have supplied the additional information that the intermediary believes that an investor is going to require. Obviously, we're prepared to assist you throughout this journey. So if you wish to have further discussions with us, please contact us because we are committed to supporting small medium enterprises, inventors and entrepreneurs that wish to raise capital utilising crowdsourced funding. Have a great day. Goodbye.